wetin she don do me, ọ̀rọ̀ tí mo máa sunkún mà ní. My
No kind of
no, the thing affect me o. My brother, our first born, come the day before yesterday. That one sef come dey last me. He no sabi.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to this effective communication training for educators and trainers. Please, can anyone confirm that they can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. I can see that we're coming into the room. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's such a pleasure. And I'm so excited for this. I don't know if you are as excited as I feel, because this is beyond a webinar. This is also adding our own footprint to curbing the problem of ineffective education in our society, in our time. So this is definitely beyond just a webinar where we come and we just listen and we talk. This is a time for us to listen as well as come up with solutions to what to do. And in this case, we are going to be focusing on effective communication, what it entails, how to go about it for educators and anyone who's into any form of education or training. As we welcome more people into the room, please, can you just type in the chat box, tell us your name, your location, and one interesting adjective that describes you. So if you are an extrovert, if you're someone who's daring, if you're someone who's an introvert, whatever adjective you want to use to describe yourself, in the chat box, let me see you there, your name, your location, and an adjective that describes you. Okay, I will be reading them out. I will be reading out. Thank you so much, Aitayo, so that you can hear me. Thank you. Okay, so I'm waiting for your introductions in the chat session. Okay, so we have one of our speakers in the house. If we tell aloud, this is from Jaws, and she says she's expressive. Thank you so much, ma'am. We're waiting for others. We're waiting to hear from you, your name, your location, and an adjective that describes you. How do you describe yourself? What can you describe yourself? We want to know the kind of person that you are. Welcome once again, the new people joining the meeting now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, we're going to start this in no long distant time from now. Okay, so we have Anieje Ogonyi. I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Abuja. And this person says, I'm amazing, interesting. We have another speaker in the house, Mr. Kristen Ojem Ibadan. Okay, Eitayo, and he turns from Ilorin Kwara State, says it's expressive, interesting. Okay, so keep dropping it. Let's see where you're connecting from. What location, who are you, what location, and an adjective that describes you. Who do you think you are? Okay, something interesting. We want to know who you are. Once again, welcome to everyone who's joined us now. For this conference, we've had well over 130 registrations, and we're just 10 in the room right now, but I believe that more people are going to keep joining as we go. However, I am not one of those people who would wait for people to come in, because yes, it's not proper etiquette to keep the early comers waiting because you want the audience. So, okay, so I see a girl Blessing from Ibadan. She says she's patient. A patient Nigerian. God bless you. Anyways, welcome once again, everyone. And as we all know, because I'm sure that we did register for this conference or this webinar is titled Effective Communication Training for Educators and Trainers. And why is this training important? I'm going to be telling you in a little while. But for those here who may not know who I am, if you check the name on my Zoom, it says Coach Sophia at Sophia Diction. Okay, but my name is Deborah Hirikan. And I'm also known as Coach Sophia. I'm the lead coach at Sophia Universal, the Sophia Universal. We are a communications company. We specialize in communications training. So we offer diction and elocution courses. We offer public speaking courses. We offer reading classes, phonics, and all of that. Business elocution and business communication and interpersonal skills. And I tell people that I am passionate and dedicated to transforming people to becoming confident and eloquent speakers. That is my life's goal. And I'm so excited to have you join me on this webinar. Now let's go back to our webinar and what it is about. Why is this important? Why did we have to come up with this at this point in time? A few weeks ago, I was just doing regular work. And an idea came to me. I work with schools a lot. I partner with different schools. I work as a teacher. I work as a trainer, a corporate trainer. And because I have worked with many schools, many times we see the reality of what is the modern day classroom in Nigeria. And sometimes you ask yourself, or you're forced to wonder, how did we get here? How did our value go so low? How have we found ourselves here? And of course, you ask the average Nigerian about the education system in Nigeria. One thing they will tell you is it is very poor or quite poor. But one thing people hardly point out is the quality of our educators in present-day Nigeria. Of course, due to a lot of factors, I can say that we are very proud of the quality of educators we have in our systems. And of course, this is affecting the general quality of our education system. Okay, one thing you must realize is that the teacher is the one who upholds the society. Yes, the teacher and the parent, because teachers are second parents. So if you're an educator, you work with children through the early years, the elementary, the secondary, or even to the tertiary level. It's very important that you are effective at what you do. You understand the importance of your role in society building. And while we may go about complaining about it, it's time to stand up and act, not just complain. And one thing we're going to go with, or I always advocate for, is be someone who can communicate effectively. Communication skill is the most in-demand skill in the world. That's the first thing anyone is looking for. If you can't communicate your ideas, no one is going to be attracted to those ideas. You have good ideas, you have good initiatives. You must be able to communicate them properly, not just say. How do you communicate that properly? And so today on this webinar, I have brought in some experts, people I have worked with for some years, and I have studied. These are also educators. And I know that this is the kind of standard we are looking for in Nigeria. And so I have brought them on this webinar, and they're going to be talking to us about the importance of effective communication for educators and trainers and how to achieve that. And at the end of the day, I'm sure that we're going to have some very clear solution path to our problem and at least go a little step forward in trying to build a better education system in our country. And so without any further ado, I want to say a big welcome once again to everyone who's just joined us on the call. Please keep your microphones muted so that we don't distract other people. And if you haven't introduced yourself, please go to the chat session. Now, if you're using your phone, once you tap the screen of your phone, you'll see some options just down below. If you see the options down below, you can see chat. So you can click on the chat, it will come up and you can drop in your chat, introduce yourself, tell us your name, your location, and one adjective that describes you, one way you would like to describe yourself. So if you haven't done that, please do that. I'll be in the chat session and I'm going to, be greeting everyone who drops their name or introduces themselves in the chat. Right now, because of our time, we're going to segue right into the first session for today. And for this first session, I have someone I respect so much and who's going to be talking to us about a very interesting topic, intelligence in education. Sorry, please mute yourself. Thank you. So I'm going to be inviting this person, but before I invite him, let me introduce him to you. His name is Mr. Christian Ojim, and he has over 19 years experience as an English language and literature in English teacher. In this period, he has worked directly with both children and adults in formal and informal settings. Mr. Ojim has attended several workshops and pieces of training that have helped him hone his skill. He has a BA honors in English and a Master's of Arts from the University of Ibadan. He also has a postgraduate diploma in education from National Teachers Institute, Kaduna. Mr. Ojim is a registered and licensed teacher by the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN. He currently serves as the acting head of college for Christ Ambassadors International College, Ibadan. Prior to this, he has served in various capacities. He has been the deputy head of college. He has been a vice principal. He's been the head of Faculty of Art and Languages, and he's been the head of the Department of English. Mr. Ojim is passionate about raising students that are academically vibrant, emotionally stable, and morally upright. Please, you can use your reaction buttons, you can use the chat, and I want you to give a round of applause to our first speaker for the day, speaking on emotional intelligence in education. Please welcome Mr. Christian Ojim. Over to you, sir.
Okay, can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes, clearly.
Oh, thank you very much. My topic reads emotional intelligence in education, enhancing communication and relationship. But I would want to really focus more on emotional.
Lisa, can we see you?
Okay, let me try. Okay, can you see me now?
Thank you very much. Yes, we could, but it just disappeared again. Yes, we can see you now.
Okay. Okay. So, by definition, we could say emotional intelligence refers to the capacity to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both within oneself and in others. It encompasses self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. That is 4 aspects of emotional intelligence. But it is important to note that self-awareness is key because it starts from an understanding of your emotions and the emotions of others. It gives you a window into the responses, actions, and reactions of people around you. Second to self-awareness is empathy. Empathy is simply the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It enables students to connect with their peers and teachers. Educators can incorporate empathy building activities such as role playing, group discussion, and the community projects to foster a sense of understanding and compassion among learners. My take is to be narrowed down, considering what we see in classrooms today. You find out that teachers are more content focused and they leave the idea of learning at the doorsteps of the students. As a result, you see a lot of students struggling to grab or understand academic content. You usually see a classroom characterized by students who could easily cram facts. And at the end of the day, there is no secure knowledge. So I will start by saying that a teacher that is ready to separate the personality of a child from the performance of the child is simply being emotionally intelligent. So if we bring emotional intelligence into education, we will simply be talking about the student-teacher relationship or the teacher-student relationship. So a teacher who knows that boys find it easier to speak of their negative emotions is simply being emotionally intelligent. Such teachers can easily help students understand their emotions. A teacher whose lessons will record minimum disruption has the understanding that students with behavioral issues desire attention, and that is emotional intelligence. To deliver quality service as a teacher, I think you are expected on a consistent basis to revisit or rethink your ability or competencies in the area of relationship management, achievement, thinking, global culture, excellence, and technology. However, I would want us to sojourn a little bit. I want us to really understand the kind of students we have these days, because our understanding would enable us to do justice to this topic effectively. You will discover that if you're in a secondary school, you will have adolescents, particularly teenagers. And one thing that is sure about the students we have these days is that they have their downstairs brain developed, unlike their upstairs brain. that is yet to be fully developed. In other words, every human being has what we call the upstairs brain and downstairs brain. But for our students, many of them below the age of 23, they will have the downstairs brain developed, while the upstairs brain would remain grossly underdeveloped. This explains why students act out their feelings where they would have expectedly the upstairs brain is responsible for more intricate mental processes like planning, morality. When a child's upstairs brain is well, the child is more likely to be able to slow down, think before acting, and regulate emotions. But if it is the case that the upstairs brain is yet to be functional, you would have a child acting without thinking. The downstairs brain includes lower regions of the brain that are responsible for basic functions like breathing, blinking, as well as impulses and emotions like anger and fear. While the downstairs brain, with its strong emotion and impulses, is fully built and functioning in young children, the upstairs brain is unfinished and is still under construction until the person gets to the 20s. So in a classroom, when you see kids experience or demonstrate strong emotions, you can help them reconnect to their upstairs brain by planning, strategic questioning, and helping them to think. Naturally, they will not think before they act. So you are there as a tutor or a teacher to help them to act. Don't expect kids or children to be able to make good decisions. Remain calm and consider others' feelings all the time. They will not do that. So your focus as a teacher or as an educator is to ensure that they marry the impulses from the downstairs brain with that of the upstairs brain. In other words, your work as an educator is to help the child link the downstairs brain with information from the upstairs brain. It is enough to be smart and hardworking, but students should know that it's also important to manage their emotions to succeed in school or at school. Children and adolescents have their lifestyles, and most of the time, they don't expect that you interfere. But if you're emotionally intelligent, that is the only window you have into the heart of a child. Much of the misbehavior we see in children is a function of incapacity of their upstairs brain, like I said earlier. Incapacity here means that the upstairs brain is at that developmental stage. The students, teenagers of the present age have a different paradigm for morality, and the teacher should understand that fact. So if you place your category of morality on the child, you might generally be helping them to shut the door. And at the end of the day, you would conclude that they are not responsive. At times you could see teachers concluding that the child is not cooperative enough in class. You see teachers talking about disruption, and all boils down to the fact that the teacher lacks one thing: emotional intelligence. Students who are better or able to understand and manage their emotions effectively do better at school than their less skilled peers. Students with higher emotional intelligence may be better able to manage negative emotions such as anxiety, boredom, and disappointment that can negatively affect academic performance. May also be able to manage the social world around them, forming better relationship with teachers, peers, and family, all of which are important academic successes. However, I want to state at this point that a teacher, educator that is emotionally intelligent will need to understand that disruption implies attention seeking. So it now depends on your understanding of the emotions of the child for you to give the right response. It is not in all cases that you have disruptions as a child be non-cooperative or non-cooperative with the teacher. There are some key signs you need to find out as a teacher or educator. One, you must have the ability to identify and describe what people are feeling. Do you have words, the right words, to register in your own heart what people feel? Beyond that, you're expected to be aware of the personal strength and limitations of your students. You must be able to lead them to demonstrate self-confidence and self-acceptance. Many of our young people do not accept the way they like, especially when they are body shamed. They tend to run back or run into their shell. They stay withdrawn. It takes an emotionally intelligent teacher to pull them out of their shell. Many of them don't like their mistakes to be registered, but it takes an emotionally intelligent teacher to assist them to let go of their mistakes and move on. Of course, there are lessons with the mistakes, but many a times, because of the functionality of the upstairs brain, they tend to find it difficult to let go of their mistakes. They define themselves by their mistakes. However, it is the duty of the educator to define the mistakes, analyze the mistakes with the students, and help the students to let go of the mistakes. Many young people will not necessarily accept or embrace change, and you must be able to see that. Once you identify that ability or character in a child, you're expected to help them accept and embrace change. How do you do that? You do that by doing three things. One, you do that by helping them to define themselves. You put yourselves in their shoes. That's the empathy. It is important students learn to perceive their emotions. When they can't, then it becomes a difficult thing. But an emotionally intelligent teacher would help them do that. You perceive the emotions. Many a times you have them nonverbal. You will have them as facial expressions. You will have them as body language. After helping them to do that, you're also expected to move to the next step, and that is reasoning with emotions. You begin to make sense of the emotions. That means you move the emotions from the level of a feeling to the level of cognitive activity. You create an activity around the emotions or a discussion around the emotions. You define, clarify, exemplify, and before you're done, you'll discover that they would have been freed from this so-called cage where they would have imprisoned themselves ab initio. Understanding emotions becomes key because it makes the student feel that the teacher is a super champion, but not really. is it the case that the teacher is a super champion? But most of the times, your words will appeal to their emotions, and they find security around you. And once they find security around you, learning becomes easier. The greatest task is that of managing emotions. The ability to manage emotions effectively is a crucial part of emotional intelligence, and in fact, the highest level of emotional intelligence. So regulating emotions and responding appropriately, as well as responding to the emotions of others, are all important aspects of emotional intelligence. Trying to juxtapose emotional intelligence in education and communication, it is clear to note that good communication requires clarity and understanding of what you are saying. So in other words, if you're speaking, ensure that you give room for understanding. You must select your words, ensure that your words will not provoke negative emotions, ensure that you're addressing the right emotions, the right feelings, and if it is about cognitive ability, ensure that the lesson is well driven. With emotional intelligence, you can better understand the feelings and needs of others and respond in a way that meets their needs. It's not about talking, it's not about speaking, that's the skill part of it, but it's about you attending to the needs of people. If you have 20 students in your class, be sure that you have 20 emotions to attend to. And your understanding of general statements that will appeal to the emotion of a boy, emotion of a girl, it's important. Like I said earlier, it is important to know that boys will naturally find it easier to express their negative emotions. So if you're a teacher, in a class, you have boys talking. If you listen well, you discover that expressing negative emotions, no boy will easily express his positive emotions. They like to keep to that. That serves like their ego. They protect it and they say it to whoever they like. Most of the time, you need to be a friend before they talk about their positive emotions. But many times you see them expressing negative emotions, trying to be in charge, trying to prevent intrusion, and trying to say that they are grown-ups. It's the duty of a teacher to also appeal to that trend. It is also important to note that if you're teaching any student between the age of 11 and age of 16, 17, that's the age where the desire for individuality is more pronounced. And it is your duty to understand that the quest for individuality is the quest for freedom. So you can always allow them when they are protesting to have their space. And when you observe some level of calmness, you call them and you now define what they've done, express the folly in what they've done, and ask them about the lessons, because at that point, they will easily understand their mistakes. But if you want to stand your ground in the class and maintain the fact that you are the teacher, you will lose them. You will lose them in terms of attention and in terms of whatever you would have told them or you'll be teaching, they might not be part of the class at the end of the day. So one thing I want us to take from this short note is that a person with a high emotional intelligence can regulate emotions. You can respond effectively to the emotions of your students. Let it not be the case that we have teachers these days that would impose their decisions on students without having a feel of their emotions. Let it not be the case that we have teachers who still believe that the best way to correct the child is to cane the child physically. Let's not believe that the best way to have an interaction with a child or a student is to define your standing as the teacher. Gone are the days when teaching would be an opportunity for you to showcase yourself as the all in all. Now it is constructivist. You allow them have a say, they have opinions, and as you create discussions in class that would necessarily pull them out of their shell by strategic questioning and effective questioning, you see that the child would have something to say. And from whatever they say, you can tell the state of their mind. From whatever they say, you can help them grow. From whatever they say, you can correct them. From whatever they say, you can help them move to the next stage. Teaching is a journey, and it is a journey of men who are ready to raise human beings that will not only be academically vibrant. Upright, they have to be emotionally stable. An emotionally stable child can do wonders. An emotionally stable child will never be disruptive. An emotionally stable child will cooperate with the teacher. An emotionally stable child would find moral uprightness appealing. I think I would round off by simply saying, emotional intelligence promotes collaboration and teamwork by nurturing effective interpersonal skills. By cultivating emotional intelligence, students and teachers develop their ability to work cooperatively, appreciate diverse perspectives, and resolve conflict constructively, because conflict will always ensue. Human beings exist with antagonistic but reconcilable interests. If you understand that interest could be reconcilable, then you're emotionally intelligent. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oji. That was a very rich. I feel bad that we just had you for 25 minutes. It feels like this is something we need to sit down and unpack because it's really, really loaded. And I'm actually surprised we're able to squeeze so much in 25 minutes. Amazing. It's almost like 25 minutes was just too short. Now, I want everyone who listened to Mr. Oji, please drop what you learned in the chat. I need this chat session to be on fire. I need people to communicate. When you hear something that makes sense, reiterate it in the chat session. Put it there. So let me hear or let me read, since you're writing, what you learned from this session. Mr. Oji's session was emotional intelligence in education, and it's enhancing communication and relationships. And if you listen very well, you can hear that everything he said was towards building a better relationship with your learners, how to understand them, okay? So Ideal Diction Part says, a person with high emotional intelligence can regulate emotion. Yes, so it's not always about how I feel. This is how I feel. I'm not happy today. Don't talk to me. Dear Nigerians, be calming down. People should be calming down. So you need to be able to regulate your emotion. That is what emotional intelligence is all about. And it's not always about you. It's about who you're relating to. How can you help them? How can you work with them? Thank you so much. Is it only Ideal Diction Path? Okay, understanding emotions is key to being an effective teacher. That's what someone else learned. I kept writing and writing. And for me, I would say, separate personality from performance. Yeah. If you're able, as educators, you must come to the point where you're able to separate a child's personality from their performance. And I know that as teachers, sometimes it's really hard to do, because the children who are performing well, you tend to like them better because you feel that, well, they're nicely behaved. And so sometimes there's that unspoken bias towards the learner, and that is very harmful in the education space. Being an educator is beyond just making money. It's a calling, it's a ministry. So when you get in there, you have to do the work. And I remember Mr. Ojim said, if you have 20 learners, you must start to study 20 different personalities. We must put in the work. If we're going to stop complaining and start experiencing, it starts from us as well, educators. Thank you so much, Mr. Ojim. I'm going to take one question. If anyone has a question concerning this, I have a question, but okay, I'm just going to ask my question. And if you have a question, just type it in the chat. We'll take just one so that we can move on to the next speaker. Our time is, it's quickly, I don't know where the time is running to. You should just pause, just wait for us. So, Mr. Ojim, I have this question. You know, emotional intelligence has a lot to do with empathy. Having empathy as a teacher or as an educator or as a trainer, because it's not always children, you know, being able to understand where someone is coming from, what's happening with them, and putting yourself in their shoes. You said that, put yourself in their shoes. So how can you balance being an empathetic educator and still being firm? You still want to communicate firmness, but you also want to communicate empathy. How can we balance that? Because sometimes it's not so easy. I really want to know.
Okay. An empathetic educator is someone that would be very vast in the use of words. And if you're firm, it's about words. It's not about the frown on your face. It's not about it's not about the frown on your face. It's not about using sticks or cane. It's about words. The words that will pierce the emotion. If you're empathetic, it's about words. Just 2 days ago, I had a student who would naturally not want to come to me because she believes I'm very firm. But she took ill, and I was told to come see her in the sick bay. So when she saw me, she was scared. So I had to get a chair. I told the nurse to give me a chair. I sat beside her, and I asked a simple question. How do you feel? She said, "Sir, I'm fine. I want to believe that you're not going to miss anything in the class. I will tell your teachers to get the notes for you. So just take your time, spend 2 periods. That's about 100 minutes. And by the 3rd period, I'll come looking for you. And when I fetch you, I'll take you back to class." She was very happy. In fact, I got 2 calls from the parents yesterday just for that act.
Wow.
Naturally, it's not my character to do that, but I just wanted to win the attention of that girl. She's a struggling student or less able student, and every teacher seemed to have defined her as someone that will not be able to do well. So I feel that, no, she's to do well. I think since I'm not in the classroom for now, but I can still do 1 or 2 things. So can you believe that she had like 4 notes to complete, and she did that. Wow. And just yesterday afternoon, before the parents came, she had completed 2. And I told her while she was going home, I want to see the 2 on Monday. Just take your time, right? So thank you very much, sir. So perhaps before now, nobody had affirmed her. Before now, nobody had used words that will make her feel that she's in a community. At times, maybe all the teachers will be of the same voice. She's not good, she's not cooperating, she's always frowning, she's this, she's that. In the midst of these negative descriptions or descriptors, I think it is important to ask why. An emotionally intelligent teacher is one that will ask why. You go beyond the descriptors to ask the why question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In fact, that answer answered something else. Now, someone says what they learned, emotional intelligence promotes teamwork. It does. It helps you relate better. So, and Oludayo Tade says empathy is key to enhancing learner understanding. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Ojim. This session was quite educative. If you're firm, it's about words. Yes. It's not about the frown on your face. And Mr. Ojim has said an emotionally intelligent educator is someone who's fast with the words. You know what to say.
Yes.
So I don't know if your vocabulary is limited as an educator. I don't know how you're going to cope in this space. Thank you so much, Mr.
You're
OJ.
welcome.
That was a wonderful session. We're so happy to have had you, and I'm sure that we have learned. This is quite illuminating. Excellent presentation, sir. An emotionally intelligent teacher would ask, why? Go beyond the what is happening to the why is this happening. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Elgin. Please leave your comments in the chat for him. Tell him thank you. Tell him how well he has impacted you in this few minutes. And without wasting time, we're going to move on to the next session. We have this very loaded session. Now, this person I'm about to bring up is someone who's so dear to me. In fact, this person is my mother. Yes, I call her mommy. I can't call her name. I don't know what that name really, it's mommy. I call her mommy. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing her right now. And please, you would help me celebrate this person. I'll be bringing up to the virtual lectern, Eric Pitan Omoefe Ola Adisa, PhD, MNIA Marches. Now, this woman is a lecturer in architecture at the University of Jos, where she is involved in teaching and research focusing on viability in architecture practice. Her passion for service began during her postgraduate studies in the US, when she received the Henry Adams American Institute of Architects. She received the Henry Adams Medallion and Certificate for General Excellence in Architecture, and the Alpha Rho Chi, the US Architecture National Honors Society Medal for Leadership. Married and service in her alma mater in 1988. This passion for service climaxed during her NYSC year, where she was involved in initiatives culminating in her receipt of the first NCWS Mariam Babangida Cup of Excellence as Distinguished Female Corps Member in Community Service in Nigeria, 1993. And the NYC Head of State Honors Award, providing her with automatic employment in federal civil service. Despite such an auspicious beginning, she faced several challenges in career development, as is the case with several women in architecture, largely due to inadequate mentoring. Turning the proverbial lemon into lemonade, Oladisa is involved in direct mentorship programs through her Paloma G. Pedrez mentorship program for youth, particularly girls, in science and technology careers. Her indirect mentoring activities include board membership in organizations with interest in literacy, women and children empowerment. Dr. E.O. Oladisa has taught entrepreneurial studies at the postgraduate level in the Department of Architecture, where she brings to bear her experience as director of Great Blessings Christian Schools, Jos, Pearls Light Educational Consultancy, and Let's Read Initiative NGO, with combined staff strength of over 100 men and mostly women. As a fully registered architect with Architects Registration Council of Nigeria and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, she operates a diversified architecture practice with landscaping and interior design utilizing green architecture principles. She's married with children. Please use this profile. Oh God, I was waiting for someone to say this profile is excellent. It's just oozing fire. It's hot in the room right now. Please make welcome my mom, a very seasoned educator and an architect. Please make welcome Dr. Eripitan Ola Adisa. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for this privilege to present this paper on effective communication for school leaders. I actually thought I wouldn't be able to join everyone today because of what's going on. I think it's nationwide. Electricity problems, petroleum problems, and so on and so forth. But thank God I'm here. And for the next few minutes, I'd like us to talk about effective communication for school leaders. But before we start that, I'd just like to break the ice with a funny story, okay? So there was one day, a school principal received a message from a teacher that read, "I need you to talk about a particular student. He's been misbehaving in class, and I think he needs to be punished. In fact, I think he needs to be suspended." So the principal was in a hurry, and he used a particular idiomatic expression, which is in America says, "Okay, let's hang him," which is another expression for, "Okay, you can go ahead and suspend him." So later that day, the principal received a call from the students' parents, who were understandably upset about the principal's response. The principal was confused, and he asked the parents, "What are you talking about? What did I say? I mean, your son misbehaved and everything." Like, but then the parents said, "Okay, your teacher called earlier and told us that you had said as a principal, okay, let's hang him. I can accept the part of him being suspended, but why would you recommend hanging our son? What did our son do that was so bad for him to be hung?" At that point, the principal realized that the parents had not really appreciated the message that he had sent to the teacher. I mean, using that kind of figure of speech is quite inappropriate in this context. He immediately apologized to the parents, and he explained the context. He didn't really understand what it meant. Okay, so let me explain the context, because you may be wondering, what does that mean? When you suspend something, you hang it, right? So something is suspended in the air, is hanging in the air. And that's exactly what the principal was saying. And he now used it as an opportunity to discuss the student's behavior with the teacher. He was trying to break the ice, but then he brought great offense because his communication was not clear. I know my time is very limited, so use the point, because I know that people learn in different ways. Some people, communication is more effective visually. For some, it is more effective verbally. And for most people, it's a combination of many things. I think I also talk rather fast. So if you could see what I'm talking about, it will help. But I don't know if you could do screen sharing. The challenge now is that the PowerPoint is on my laptop, and I'm speaking to you with my phone.
You can share. I've given you rights to share.
On my laptop?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah. Let's see, share the screen. Okay, good. Here we are. So, can everyone?
We can see your screen, ma'am.
Okay. Is it? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can. We can see it.
Oh, so here we go. Effective. Let me now minimize this and let's see. Okay. Effective communication for school leaders and anybody else for that matter. So, school leaders should have effective communication because it's crucial to ensure that everyone in your community is on the same page and they're working towards the same goals. We'll be looking at 5 things, 5 elements for effective communication for school leaders. So these 5 key elements for effective communication are clarity, active listening, transparency, and feedback. So let's talk about clarity. You know, I gave an example of about the school principal that said they should hang a child, which is an idiomatic expression for suspend. You suspend something, you hang it. And it was inappropriately used, and the parents misunderstood. It's very important to be clear in your communication to avoid any misunderstanding. It's so achievable if we use simple and concise language. Avoid the use of jargon, technical terms that are not familiar to everyone. And now I schooled in America, and so some of the terminology I learned, even in Nigeria, is not the same. I'm sure you know there's a difference between British terminology and an American terminology. So where in doubt, go to the simplest terms. Don't use anything that you think may impress. You may just end up confusing everybody. And then it's important to provide the context and explain the rationale behind your decisions. So let me give an example. A school administrator was talking to parents about the dress code policy. Now, he didn't use complex legal language, just use simple, clear language that's easy for the parents to understand. Parents typically are not impressed by fancy words, at least not in the context of their children. You may be very well educated, but if you don't understand the environment in which you are making your presentation, it's very, very easy for people to leave your topic or your context and now go and focus on what you were saying that wasn't meant for them to pick. When you talk in a simple way, it makes it easier for the parents, it makes it easier for the staff, it makes it easier for the learners, it makes it easier for everyone in your community. I remember when I was still in the US, one of my siblings visited, and then one of our cousins was acting up, that is misbehaving. And my sister reported, it was actually my sister, so she reported my cousin and said, this girl is very rude. And this child now comes and wants to say, are you angry with me? Instead of saying, are you angry with me? The child said, are you mad? Are you mad? If she had even said, are you mad at me? My sister would have understood what she was saying. But she says, are you mad? So my sister said, you see, I told you she's rude. After I finished laughing, I now explained to her that, no, she's trying to say, are you angry with me? We must be very careful, especially when, so that we don't send the wrong message by using complex or out of context terminology. Active listening, this is the second one. And it just means paying attention to what the other people are saying, and understanding their perspectives. It's very important to listen actively to your staff, your students, your parents. That's the way you can build trust and foster a positive school culture. It's important to encourage open communication and be and that way an environment where everyone is comfortable. Can you imagine if you're a school leader that your staff cannot come and talk to, parents cannot come and talk to, and you have a big problem. You won't even know when you're going or you're going right. Look, you know, you can talk about very difficult things, and you may not necessarily agree with the other party, but once the person knows that they have your ear, they have a listening ear with you actively, real time, and they know that you will respond to them in a timely and a meaningful way, you will build trust. You will build a positive environment. Imagine if your staff do not have an outlet to be able to talk to. That would be a big problem, wouldn't it? Timing. The frequency with which you communicate with your staff is very important. I mean, can you imagine now you are the school leader, maybe at the beginning of the term, the middle of the term, you may not speak with your parents every day. It's also important that you understand that there are appropriate channels for the different. If it's urgent, then time is of the essence, and you may need to make immediate action. Now, I work in the university, and I'm not always in the school. So the staff know that if it's something that is urgent, then they have to call me. Because you send it to me by WhatsApp, I may or may not check. I usually make a habit of checking my phone very early in the morning. And if I'm going to work, I'm most likely driving. I'm not going to be checking a text message while I'm. But if it comes in, even if I don't pick while I'm driving, able to check it out at a point. And if it's not time sensitive, then they know they can send me a text message. The same thing goes for parents. You want to get their attention, the best thing is a phone call. If you can't call, say a WhatsApp message, because if you go on WhatsApp, for instance, they may not have data, or they may not check if they don't know it's you, for instance. You can send emails, you can also send newsletters. What I typically do now is that I communicate in all the acceptable media. I will call someone, like there's somebody I've been trying to get across to for a while now. And once I got a feedback, I made a phone call. I followed up with a text message, a WhatsApp message, and an email. The email is also useful because you can use it as a record of the communication with the person, because somebody can say, oh, I didn't see your text message, or I didn't get your email. That would be a lie if they say I didn't get your email. You can also use a newsletter, which is handwritten or printed, but then if you're sending it home, the children may or may not deliver it. Let me give you an example. A school administrator needed to communicate an urgent school closure due to communal crisis. Can you imagine now if the person now decided that he was going to send a newsletter home that the school is being closed today because of crisis? Does that really make sense? Or he's going to send an email How many of the parents will be checking their email? That administrator used a direct and a clear channel. He used phone call, sent text message to reach the parents immediately. Transparency, very, very important. Transparency simply means you're being honest and you're being straightforward in your communication. It's very important that we share information openly and honestly, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable. The reason why is that people will trust you if they know you're telling the truth, whether it's your staff, your students, or your parents. I'm sure that we know of some controversial situations in some school settings where parents got to find out things about their children and they were not given adequate communication, or they felt that there was a cover-up somewhere. Even if something goes wrong, the truth will always make one free. It will build credibility, and it's better to take things by the horn. I always tell the staff, for instance, an incident in the school, don't let the parent find out. Be proactive and put in a call even before school closes. Take, for instance, a little child falls and bruises his knee. It's not a big deal, but it's better coming from you than the parent finding out. These are the little things that build trust in the school community. And finally, we have feedback. I encourage feedback from staff, your students, and parents. It makes sure that everybody's voice is heard and that their opinions are valued. It doesn't mean you're going to do every single thing that they say, but at least they know that you are listening. They have a listening ear, and there's an opportunity for them to be heard. It's important also that you collect through various means. You can have a suggestion box. You can have a suggestion. So the other one went off, but I think you can all still hear me. So you can have a suggestion box. You can have surveys. You can have one-on-one meetings. But the most important thing about feedback, I think, is that you have to respond promptly. And if need be, take an action. You don't have to collect the information and do nothing about it. So I'm concluding now by saying that when you incorporate all these elements into your communication strategies, you can build, first of all, trust, you can foster collaboration, and most importantly, you create a positive school culture. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you. If there are any questions, I would love to answer at this point.
Please, can we use our reactions, use your emojis, and just celebrate this wonderful presentation? Honestly, I feel so bad. I think that we need to have a very elaborate training that would span a couple of hours or some days even to unpack these things, because I feel like it's just too much and it's going too fast. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, that is a school leader who has spoken from experience, very down to earth and practical. Thank you, ma'am. Now, before I say something, I was going to say this at the beginning. She may not like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Many people, very few people know that my journey into the communication industry came through this wonderful mom of mine. So she introduced me to working for her company, and guess what? It was a communication company. And that's how my journey started, and that's how I'm here today. So whatever I'm doing today, I owe a very, very huge thank you to her as well. Okay, so let's hear it in the chat. What did you learn from this session? What did you learn? Effective communication for school leaders. What did you learn? I mean, She just brought out every single thing about what effective communication is. Clarity, active listening, transparency. You cannot use the wrong word in a context, because then it's no longer effective. What you're saying and what the person is understanding are two different things, and communication has not happened. So communication, effective communication, means that what you said, what you meant was exactly what the other person heard and understood and decoded. Okay, so let me hear from you. What did you learn? What did you learn? For me, use simplest terms. Don't go about trying to impress everybody. You may put yourself in wahala. And you know, Nigerians, we don't have patience like that. Small thing, everywhere scatter. So use the simplest terms, even though your vocabulary, use terms they would understand immediately. And timing, understand timing, understand timing. Late communication is not effective communication. It has to be fast if it's urgent, or, you know, it has to be at the appropriate time. Thank you so much. And then transparency and feedback. I'll just go about saying everything again. Okay, so someone says, I learned that effective communication builds trust. Yes, it does. Communicate with clear and simple words, says Tomilola. Effective communication is not using jargons. It's not using jargon. So now, if you're someone who's into sales, you want to promote your school, let's say, because we're all educators or trainers, or your business even, and you want to promote, and you're going about using the technical terms that only people in your profession understand, to tell someone, come, let me teach you, or bring your child, and you're using big technical jargons, you're just talking to yourself. No communication. Ronke says, mommy is our godmother. She is. Clarity is important. Clarity is really important. Use appropriate channels to deliver messages. Oh, you've communicated, but you dropped it on WhatsApp, and then it's urgent. And you say, oh, but I told you, but I didn't. When? I sent you a WhatsApp message. Hello, that's not an appropriate channel for the timing. Thank you so much. So do we have any questions? Any questions, anyone? Any questions? If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box. This presentation was really practical, straightforward, but I still believe that someone may have a question to ask. Anyone? I'm going to give 1 minute to that for any questions. Okay, so if nobody has, I have one question. Now, this thing about transparency, as a leader, where can we draw? Where can we draw the line? Because sometimes it's like, you know, when is it okay to not do too much? I'm being transparent. I'm trying to let you know, oh, what's happening. This is what happened. But where can we draw the line? Where do we need to stop? Or, you know, so that we don't hurt ourselves as well while we're communicating. Please, Mom.
Yes. I think that when you are proactive, it makes a difference. Let me use a situation, a scenario. A child falls and maybe has an injury. You don't wait for the parents to discover this. You actually will call, put in a call, and do that. You need to find out all the things that happen, because you may not have been an eyewitness. One of the things that I think that people make a mistake in a lot is that they don't practice effective communication. For crying out loud, somebody's child is injured, and then you are defending yourself. Just state the facts. Yes, this is what happened, and so on and so forth. I can tell you that if you are not looking, you're not complex, you're giving simple explanations, then you're building trust. I don't care what the situation is, because things happen. We've heard about some of the terrible things that have happened in schools. But usually the issue is not the terrible thing that happened, but actually how effective was your communication. That's really the issue. So if you keep it simple, you don't say too much, but you state the facts and it's the truth, and you are being proactive, you're the one that is initiating this, you're in control, you'll not be defensive. But when you are caught doing something, and one of the things you have to do as a leader is to make sure that you are accessible. Because if your staff, for instance, think you will sell them, throw them under the bridge or under the bus. Say, for instance, a child did something and it's now them against the educator or the teacher. And then immediately you start berating the educator in front of the parents. The parents now feel like this person does not really care about me. And children can lie. I'm not saying that everything that a child says the educator is guilty of. There are always two sides to a coin. But once your staff know that you're not going to disown them and you're going to own the situation as a leader, they are more likely to tell you immediately something goes wrong. But if they're afraid and you haven't created an atmosphere of confidence, remember I said that when you have effective communication, then you have a culture, a positive culture in your environment. It's not a negative culture. You're not saying I will sack you now. Imagine this child fell down. I'll see what I'll deal with you today. If you don't have that kind of environment, people are more likely to come up and tell you. I always tell the staff that, look, if you are, and let's say it's a teacher, you are just the hands, you're connected to somewhere else. The buck does not stop with you. This is an organizational thing. So you create the atmosphere before an incident will happen so that people will be able to speak when these things happen. But if they don't think they can trust you, they will cover it up. You will have cover-ups. But having said that, one of the themes that for us this year is we're coming against concealment. Even at that, people do cover up. But you have to be able to, well, I'm a Christian, so the Holy Spirit who guides and gives me insight. So usually we will find out that those kind of things before they escalate. Not all the time, but when they do, tell the truth. When in doubt, tell the truth. In very few words. If you talk too much, you'll say what you're not supposed to say. That is true. And you may even not be wrong, but because you've talked too much, you're not, or you're using wrong words, like that principle at the beginning, how they want to suspend a child, they say hang the child. How are you ever going to convince the parent that you are not trying to kill their child for whatever offense they committed? I mean, so you just be simple. And then one thing I have learned is that there is no emergency. I haven't mastered it, but I have learned it. So you don't have to rush to speak. You don't have to rush to act on something. Allow your mind to process the situation. And once you're able to process it and jot down things and even take notes, don't rely even on your head, you know. You talk and talk and talk and talk, take notes, jot down your points. You notice that I had a brief PowerPoint. If I didn't have that PowerPoint, I'm not as brilliant as the first speaker. I would just go on and on and on. But I know that, and you see that there were very few words. But what I used to prepare, of course, is much more than what I'm using. Because if I use too many words, I'm likely to lose people. If you use too many words, your parents will read different meanings. And so I think that if you understand that, the truth will always make you free. There is nothing we've been, Great Blessings is about 23 years old. And in 23 years, you see a lot of things happen, and some of them are not very nice. But we have learned to tell the truth to the parents, to tell the truth to the staff, tell the truth to the learners. And another thing I think I need to mention is that your actions must correspond with your words. Very important, because you could say a lot of nice things, but if the actions, the corresponding actions don't follow, very soon people will see you as someone that doesn't mean what you say. So I hope that that helps. Tell the truth. Don't cover up anything, but then don't talk too much, because you talk too much, you will not even know what you, before you know it, you'll be saying what you're not supposed to say. And then you're on the defensive. Take it calm. You're not in a hurry.
Thank you so much. That was beyond the training. That was also an advice, okay, for your life. Don't talk too much. In effective communication, we say be clear, be concise, go straight to the point, say what you need to say, and leave the rest. Leave the rest. When you start to talk too much, even when you're not lying, you could easily talk out of context. Coach Ngozi Bliss says, when you talk too much, you tend to speak out of, that's what I'm saying. Be concise. Mr. Christian James says, correct, ma'am. Your actions must correspond with your words. Oh, that's not how we do here, but that's how we are seeing it. So what are you saying? Thank you so very much. This was a wonderful session. And I think that we've learned beyond the classroom from these two sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you. We are grateful. Thank you for spending your time with us, even though Nigeria did not want it to happen, but our God is bigger than this whole wahala. Thank God for that. Okay, so we still have two wonderful speakers who are going to come up, but let's take a break. We're going to take a 1 minute break, just 1 minute. In 1 minute, you can stand up, stretch, go get some water, drink some water. You know, it's not good to sit too long. So walk around, stretch your legs, get some water, or get some food. Unfortunately, in this webinar, we can't serve snacks, no refreshment. So go and get your custom-made refreshment, and you can come back in a minute's time. You don't have to log out. You don't have to log out. So you come back in a minute's time, and we're going to continue from there. We're going to be having our third and our fourth speaker, and we'll wrap this up quickly. Thank you very much. See you all in a minute. Okay. It's time to get back. It's time to get back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. We're supposed to have a networking session, but we're going to have it at the end so that we don't waste so much time. Welcome back to the second part of this training. And we still have two wonderful speakers. In fact, every speaker for this webinar was carefully picked. Yes, people who have the experience, people who have put what they are saying to practice, and they're here to share from their wealth of knowledge with you. So please make sure you appreciate them. Use the chat section, the chat section. If you have not introduced yourself, yes, that's true. Some people joined late. If you haven't introduced yourself, type your name, your location, and an adjective that describes you. Some people said they're expressive. Some people said patient. If you're an introvert, an extrovert, if you're, whatever, use the chat section, your name, your location, and an adjective that describes you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move quickly. And this next person I'm going to introduce is going to be talking on promoting inclusive communication. Cultivating a positive classroom climate through effective communication strategies. So yes, I would be reading out his profile so you get to know who will be talking to us today. This is Mr. Paul King Ainde. He hails from Abeokuta, Ogun State, and he was born in Ibadan. He's an Ibadan man. We don't care what he's talking about, Ogun State. He had his primary and secondary education here in Ibadan and in Abeokuta, respectively. Paul King Ainde attended the former Oyo State College of Education, where he got a national certificate in education in economics and political science. He's an alumni of Business English Training Limited, Manchester, England, where he bagged a diploma in business English. Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, for his bachelor's degree in economics education, and the University of Ibadan for a master's degree in social studies education. These are people who went to school now. Please, I hope that the chat session is going on fire. Paul Ainde taught in different schools. He's taught in different schools as a teacher and would go on later to hold different administrative positions in the academic world. He has been a deputy headmaster, he's been the principal academic, and he's been a headmaster. And currently, he is the principal of Marella International College and the head of school of Marella International Group of Schools. Please put your hands together, use your reaction buttons, and welcome Mr. Paul King Ainde. Over to you, Mr. King. Can anyone hear me? Did I go off? Please, if you can hear me, unmute and tell me you can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so it seems like Mr. King's network has a glitch. Seems like he's suffering a glitch with his network, and he's dropped out of the room. But you know that today is not the day. We're getting it all today. We're getting it all today. Okay, so thank you so much for the reactions while we wait for him. Yes. Okay. He's also a minister of the gospel. Yes, that's true. Olua Bumi Bamitale. Yes, that's true. Mr. King is also a minister. You know the interesting thing? All our speakers today are ministers of the gospel. That's a very interesting fact. So they're bringing it home. Okay, Mr. King is back with us. Mr. King, if you're ready, please, you can take it. Hello, Mr. King, we can see you. If you can hear us, please, you can go ahead. Unfortunately, Mr. King, I think you're speaking, but your network is really acting up. So you're breaking, and we can't hear you at all. We can't hear you at all. Okay, so what we will do in order not to waste time, while you're getting your network fixed, we're going to go to the next speaker, and then we'll come back to you. Hopefully, by that time, your network would be okay. Okay, so quickly, so that we don't waste our time, we're going to bring on the next speaker. And this one is someone I respect so much, so much. In fact, she's a client turned friend, you know, when your client becomes your friend, it's really something interesting. I want to spotlight her soon, okay? Okay, but let me read her profile. Now, this wonderful lady, Bola, graduated from the Lagos State University with a Bachelor of Education in Chemistry, postgraduate Master of Education in Test, Measurement, and Evaluation, an aspect of education psychology with specialties in test and assessment analysis using scientific approach from the University of Lagos, and professional qualification headship of schools with UK-affiliated University of Portsmouth. Her over 29 years worth of experience and certification in education took her through all levels, preschool to post-tertiary of education as a teacher, lecturer, vice principal, and administrator, working with the Nigerian and British national curriculum. She's a British Council School now partner, leader, and speaker with Checkpoint examinations and International General Certificate of Secondary Education. She's held leadership responsibilities with notable international schools in capacity of senior school leader. She creates, plans, and executes projects, teaching and learning systems and processes and knowledge-based by aligning theories with practices. She organizes events and activities for students at all levels. Notable among is higher education support services. Some of the events executed to get this done being Career Day, Education Fair, Fun Fair, Inter-House Sport, and valedictories. She's also worked with examination bodies, that's ICANN and CIS, as an examiner, examination moderator, and co-author, study pack in business communication and research methodology, which she did in a bid to improve candidates' learning and retention aptitude, as well as recommended study habit techniques for professional examinations. She has developed professional interest in human capacity building, character education, education psychology. She developed a psycho-assessment academic tool for determining the learning aptitude students, research and curriculum development, leadership management, and special education, with specific cases in autism, mild cerebral palsy, birth asphyxia, attention deficit disorders, dysgraphia, and dyslexia, where she applies scientific procedures in monitoring students' learning and behavioral processes. She has attended various professional trainings in Nigeria and abroad. She is a member of the Teaching Network Foundation, TTNF, and member American Psychological Association, APA. Bola is presently the Director of Education Services at Moteb Educational Services. Her main responsibility is to conduct survey on gray areas affecting the pedagogy processes in school development and prefer impactful solutions for improvement. The areas of focus being teachers' development, SEND, diagnosis, assessment and facilitation and survey, and research for policy making and implementation for schools' growth. Please make welcome. That profile. Oh my God. I can't see your reactions. That is quite a profile. Fire.
Debbie.
Please make welcome. She's going to be talking on promoting inclusive communication strategies for addressing diverse learning needs. Mrs. Bolanle Segilola. Please use your reactions to welcome. You're welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Don't mind, Debbie. I just love to do what I like to do all the time. Forget about all those big grammars, pedagogy and all that. Everything just means teaching, learning. That's all. I'm going to write on Mommy's words to make this very clear and very. So I want to say, I am so delighted to be here. I'm highly honored. Thank you, Sophia Universal, for inviting me to do what I love to do best. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. So I'm not going to take too much time. I'm just going to share my screen and we go straight into the discourse of today. Okay, Miss, can I share my screen? Okay, I don't have the host, right? You are muted. You are muted.
Thank
so
you.
I can't hear you.
You have the rights to share. You do.
Okay, do I have now to share?
Yes, you do.
Okay, yes, I do have now to share. Okay, let's see. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be on my screen, which will be coming up in a moment. Oh, please spread on me. Okay. Just give me a few seconds. Okay. And then I have term paper. And then I have Sophia. Okay. So let's do this. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
You can you? Okay, very good, thank you. So Miss Debbie has given me the challenge to talk to you about promoting inclusive communication strategies in addressing diverse learning needs. Okay, like she said, we should be mindful of big grammar. If you can see my screen quickly, I want you to look at that and just unmute or send a chat, drop a message in the chat box. What do you see in this yellow projected activity? What can you see? Quickly. You can unmute and let me know. What do you see? Tell me what you see.
I can see someone running.
Okay.
There's a disabled person on a wheelchair. Okay, someone else. I'm not the only one in class.
Okay. Quickly, what do you see?
Someone lying down on a couch.
Very good. What else do you see?
I can see someone pressing his laptop.
Very good. What else do you see?
I can see someone with his head on the table.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Riding on the wheelchair.
Oh, great. That's good. Great, great.
I
Now,
can see a teacher. I can see a
good,
teacher.
good, great. All right, all right. I think we have spoken well. We can see diverse people in different location, different with different activities that depicts who they are. For instance, take somebody lying on the couch working on a system, and another person sitting on a couch working on a system, and another person sitting on a well-structured table and chair working on a system. And you know, there are so many diversity of people that exist, and we need to reach these people, right? So the main saddle that we have this evening, what we need to focus on is inclusive communication. Now I'm going to talk to you as a teacher, okay? So I'm going to be talking to you as a teacher. I will break down the words we need to understand. First of all, communication is inclusive. How do you, inclusion means, how do you capture everybody in your communication, irrespective of who they are, irrespective of their personalities, irrespective of the traits they exhibit? And how do you make them understand you, and you are still able to impart that information that you need to pass across? Then we're also going to be looking at the strategies, that is the steps, the method. What are the things that you need to consider, or what are the things that you need to ensure to make sure that your communication includes everybody? And then, of course, we have seen it that there are diverse people and diverse learning needs. And this evening, we will be looking at the things that make people diverse. Now, simply put, effective inclusive communication is simply put, when you share information in such a way that everybody involved can understand. Now, every picture you see here is life, is something I've worked with, practical, like my profile read to you is theory into practice. So this is the practice of the theory we're talking about. You can see some of the students there, they are doing different activities, yet learning the same thing. If you take very good look at the picture I'm projecting right now, you will see some children working with colors. Another one is writing. You will see others reading and trying to bring just the same information together, the same, the same concept in different ways. Now, if you look at this is an inclusive class. So you can see the children there, they all have their ears listening, and we have one who works strictly on the system. So what does inclusive do? What does it do to you? It makes the educator, there is a need for the educator to understand the capabilities. I'm so much interested in capabilities, because if you, as a teacher, I want to believe that everybody here is an educator, or even if you're not an educator, you pass information one way or the other. Now, as an educator or someone who passes information, you need to understand the level of abilities of the people you are passing information to. Otherwise, like mommy said, you will just, or like somebody said, you will just be speaking jargons. You understand? People are different from our first slide. They are different in every way. And as an educator, how do you ensure that the information you are passing to different people in your class, in your field of study, gives you the appropriate, gives you the appropriate outcome that you desire. Because, hey, they are different and they have different capabilities. So how do we ensure that the learners you're teaching have the information in the way that you have structured it out to be for them? Now, that is the strategy that we're moving to. So, can everybody hear me? I want to be sure that people are following
We can hear
this.
you. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So we have, irrespective of where you are, the levels you are, these are standard strategies, standard steps by which you can deliver your information. First, you must know that your class is made up of people, like we saw in the previous box, the picture in the previous box. We saw pupils who are visual learners, people who are audio, people who are tactile learners. And I'm not going to, I know that educators are here, and I'm not going to use the regular term. I've just broken down my strategies into what we use in this 21st century. This is 21st century. So we're talking 21st century approach. Okay, so don't mind me. Is that, am I good to go?
We are 21st century educators. Please carry on.
So I'm using the 21st century approach. Now, the first strategy that you want to look into when you are trying to ensure that your understand the information that you are passing across is to ensure that everything that has to do with great speech is inclusive. I'm not going to mention that because the previous speakers have spoken about simplicity, clarity, precise, and coincides, whatever language. They have spoken about that. So that is, please, if I am not obeying the rule of communication in this presentation, feel free to challenge me so that I can also make, I can also be, you know, I'm a continuous learner. So I can also learn. So first is your speech. What's your speech like? I got in when Mommy was saying something like there are different levels of, there are different words used in different locations. If you are in a particular location, you should use words that are that can be understood by people in that location. Try as much as possible to do that. Don't prove to us that you've been to America, you've been to US, or you've been to UK, you've been to Germany, and then you want to use their technical terms in Nigeria. It's not going to work because people are going to look at you and, like Mommy said, they are going to be very angry with you and they will think that you are insulting them and stuff like that. So please learn to use the language of the people. The British Council advise school owners to operate within the confines of their operating environment, to use terms synonymous to the students in their operating environment. So creativity is it. Creativity is another approach. There was a school I was working with and haven't made so much noise about this 21st century approach. I saw one of my teachers giving tests to the pupils. And guess what? The kind of test, the kind of assessment that was being displayed was the children had to do a walkthrough they had to do a walkthrough and name objects in their communities. You know, I'm talking about 6-year-old children. They had to name objects in a given language in their community. So he goes out, points at the object, and they name it. They're not only naming it, they're also writing it down. So activities involved. Number one, they go out, that's an activity. The teacher points at the object, that's an activity. Now, what will the children do? They name the activity. After naming the activity, they write it down. So all those are tasks that the children are doing and it's being measured. Okay? Can you hear me? So we're still talking, thank you. We're still talking strategies, arts and crafts, irrespective of the subject you're doing. It's a great tool for a great strategy for ensuring that everyone is carried along. And then we have role play and presentation. Presentation is very, very important. Aside the fact that it improves diction, you will be surprised that it also projects confidence. And it's the more the students present, stand in front of a given audience, that helps them to wear off anxiety. So presentation is very, very important. Do not take presentation out of your lesson strategy. Very, very important. You don't want to produce a student at the end of 6 years, or at the end of 6 years in primary, maybe 6 years in secondary, and probably 4 to 6 years in the university, who is unable to stand in front of a given audience and make points. So that is an important strategy. And under presentation, we have lots and lots of areas to cover. There are elements, there are little procedures that needs to be met on the presentation. Now with exploration, I just spoke about exploration a few minutes ago when I gave the illustration of a teacher who took the children out. Exploration is very good. And I can tell you that in one of the process where we ran, we were exploring our teaching strategies, and we were using, I don't know if people know Bloom's taxonomy. There's this Bloom's taxonomy that we're used to. Everybody is talking about Bloom's taxonomy, and you know, it has process of learning and the kind of assessment that you are supposed to conduct. It starts from knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Now, in the course of running this process, we discovered something very huge, and we're still working on it. Remember, Debbie read in my profile that I like to put theory into practice. So in the process of working the theory, we discovered that in actual fact, information needs to be broken down, first of all, to enable you understand what your presenter is saying before you can assemble it again and then begin to do your analysis. And probably, you know, now infer, that is, you use that information to place it into your own situation. So we just discovered that a group in the team where I work with, we just discovered that, hey, Bloom's taxonomy, why didn't somebody see this in while working? Everybody is just going that same path. So we're able to see that, and we know that, and in a moment, I'm going to prove that to you. Then do not limit the expanse of group task. Group task gives your people a voice, the people you are trying to meet, it gives them a voice. Like we did a few minutes ago, you had a voice and you're still having a voice because I just gave you the ticket to, please feel free to correct me. So it's a group task. It's very important. Do not limit the essence of group task in your lesson or in the way you bring people together. Now, when you are delivering information, I don't know, I think I should do this. When you're delivering information, what are the things that you need to ensure, first of all? First of all, you need to ensure this. The people you are meeting, that the class or the group of learners that you are speaking with, you need to know their levels. Like I asked when we're going to start this, I know that there are great educators in our midst, and I want to believe that there are teachers here too. So you need to know the group, the levels of the people that you are speaking with. What level? What do I mean by level? I mean, usually in the British approach, we go by age. You don't want to give a 6-year-old what belongs to a 10-year-old or 12-year-old. So you need to know the level. Then the next thing, you need to know their aptitude. So much particular about aptitude. I believe that if you don't know the aptitude of your learners, you might just be speaking to just one set of learner. That's just, that's the reason why I project aptitude at all times. And aptitude, you're talking about the children's abilities, their personal, what can they do on their own, not what can the lesson teacher do for them, not what can mommy do for them, not what can the teacher do for them. What can they do on their own? Are they able to take responsibilities for their actions, or are they able to take responsibility for the information that you have given to them to fix their behavior and their learning? So what is the ability that they are projecting? And what is the skill that you see them also projecting? Now, when we talk about skill, we're talking about the technique of doing things. There are some learners that they will show skill in the way they see it and the way they handle it. There are others that it will take them a little bit of time to be able to handle it in a very fast manner, or to be able to, align whatever. Let me give a typical scenario. We had a subject where we had to teach the children how to rule. And, children who have not ruled before, who are trying to make use of the ruler for the very first time. Some had very, very funny approaches to holding the ruler. Some caught it very fast. They knew they were supposed to hold it from the top and the bottom very fast. Some knew that they were supposed to move it, but others did not know that. Those are skills, very simple skills at some levels. And then mastery, proficiency, logical reasoning, and intelligence, level of intelligence is there. You need to check all those when you are delivering information in an inclusive class, okay? Or to an inclusive audience, okay? Then another thing you need to ensure is that information is balanced. Information is balanced, not too advanced and not too limited. The class, the age, like I said earlier, the class, the age that you are working with, you should be able to know them and know exactly what they stand for. There's something we do in school. Before we teach any subject or, any lesson, before we teach any lesson, any concept, we do what we call entry assessment. That is assessment for learning. Assessment for learning is something you do just to check the level where your students or your learners are. It also helps you to determine where you are going to pick up from, because you don't want to give something low to high performing children, and you don't want to give something extremely high to low to children who are not yet there. So entry assessment is recommended usually before you start teaching your topic. So you need to ensure that, and then you need to check the use of vocabularies, and that is always do that. So what are the steps? In an inclusive classroom, information should be defined. You must define, you must let them know the meaning. For instance, to an 8-year-old, we're going to talk about, to 7-year-old, we're going to talk about the term fertilization in science. We're going to talk about the term fertilization. You don't want to say fertilization is when the male germane and the female germane. No, we don't. They don't need that. They can learn fertilization at their level without you using SS1 vocabulary. So what did we do? We said there are female materials and male materials. They come together to make babies or to make the egg. You get it? So you must look for simple terms to show or to give what you intend, to project what you intend for each level of learners. Now, when you get to the secondary, for students who are preparing for IGCSE or bigger exams, you can use the required exam term. Yes, because they need it for that purpose. And then we have information should be sequential. Now, I have a lot of problems with teachers because when they pass their lesson plan down to me, I see, definition coming third and activity coming first. Not just the lesson plan, even the scheme of work. When scheme of work gets to you, it should be sequentially arranged. The first lesson must be a prerequisite leading topic to the next topic. Because if you scatter your information, you are going to be, the level of knowledge that you are passing will, students will find it a bit difficult and clumsy to associate what you're teaching. And that's just what it is. The integration, they won't be able to bring it together because your scheme of work or your lesson plan is just not sequential. It's not leading and it's not giving the prerequisites. Then information should be consciously addressed to measure specific aptitude. I've spent so much time on that. Then targeted interest must be projected while giving your interest. I've said so much about that. And information should be integrated. That's what I've just said. Now, this is where we're going. I'm just going to quickly explain this. Now, look at that place. This is the major thing. From the second slide where we saw all the different kinds of people doing what they love to do best. Now, there's one thing we need to know about every personality in your class, in a group, everywhere. Information varies. There's varied information as a result of, let me just say this my own way. Everybody has a measure of processing information.
Please, Mercy Jacob, can you mute yourself? Please, everyone mute yourself. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Ms. Okelola.
That's fine. Thank you. Now, let me go back. We're talking about an inclusive class, and that's why we brought this in. Now, SEND is special education needs and disability. And then we have what we call the neurotypicals. The SEND people are people that people see every day. They call them autistic children. They call them attention deficit children. They call them dyslexic, dyscalculia, all the Ds, and all the beta. I'm not here to teach you that today. I'm just here to mention it to you. Now, there's a process with that. You don't call children by all these things if you have not diagnosed them to be. However, there are other people, there are other learners that we call the neurotypicals. These are learners who are considered that they do not have any disability. They are the great learners. They are the ones that teachers love to work with best. But hey, guess what? Every learner, everybody has a little or such trait of certain form of disabilities in them, irrespective of whether or not people see or people don't see. Because the only difference is that some are higher, some are mild, and some are not even evident at all. They are able to manage it. So the people that we refer to as SEND learners are those people with higher symptoms or syndromes in deficiency in their neurodevelopmental stages. And we see them, and then we try to get across to them in an inclusive class. I showed you a picture earlier where a child a child living with autism was in the same class, learning the same lesson with this other neurotypical children. And there has to be a coordination, one-on-one kind of thing with a facilitator. So a lot of that has happened. Now, I said it that every learner has something we call information processing rate. Now, when you receive information, what do you hear? What can you translate? And what can you give back? That's, you receive information, is it encoded? When you encode it, now, what do you decode and what do you give back? Everybody has that. We don't all receive information at the same, number one, rate and with the same perception. It takes some people a longer time to decode the information, and it takes others very promptly, they are able to decode the information. Now, it takes some people understanding to be able to tell you this is the meaning of what you have said, and it takes other people another kind of understanding. So people don't give information. When I say people, I mean your learners. They don't give you the same feedback. That doesn't mean they're wrong, it's just the way they perceive it. As a teacher, it is the responsibility of the teacher to guide that information, and you guide using different words, different languages, vocabulary to guide. Okay, let's look at it in this is what we are saying, it is in this, rather than condemn or make other children laugh at the other person, because they may just not be wrong. It's just the way they perceive, the way they see the information. Now, I'm wrapping up in a moment, and I just want to quickly want us to look at, like I said, in the 21st century, two basic medias that we we can use to project information. We're on virtual, we're on the virtual platform now, and then we have the physical platform, just like you see me there in my virtual, doing what I love to do best. And then this is it. What are the parameters that you need to take into consideration when you are giving information so that people can understand you? In virtual, just like we're doing now, we have to be prompt, we have to be precise, we have to, it has to be appropriate for the audience, and then your disposition comes with poise, liveliness, and originality. There's no need when you're on a virtual platform and you are reading Pavlov's theory, or you are reading Miss Debbie's concept. No, just be original. Say your thing the way you like to do it best. That goes a long way. Now, in a physical classroom, as you see down there below, that's a physical classroom. That classroom actually is a constitution class. The children were given their class constitution. So we have, in a physical classroom, what are the things to consider? Disposition is also part of your physical, and then treat consciously to show the intent targeted towards the idea. You have to be conscious of the intent, especially when you have a child living with a certain form of disability or the other. For them, you need to break information down step by step to the lowest level step, and you need to itemize your achievement. What do I want to achieve in this step? What do I want to achieve in that step? And so will that go? And then you can measure it all the way. For instance, if you say you want to teach a child how to outline instructions, and then you list the first thing to do, the second thing to do, the third thing to do, you only concentrate on the first. Don't mingle the first thing to do with the second, because if you do, that child or the learner goes out of place and they become frustrated, depending on their disability or depending on the way. Make sure what you are giving for the first level takes the first level, and always ensure that it is firm. The child can practice it, the child can do it, and the child can walk with it, or the learner can walk with it. Okay, praise the Lord. Oh, yes, we give thanks to God always. Now, in conclusion, I like to conclude by giving you this scenario. That is everything we have said in this lesson, but I want to give you this. It's a practical scenario. It's original. It's not taken from anywhere, but from the process that we had run. I worked with a school back in Lagos, and the teacher was saddled with a lot of responsibilities. He's the ICT teacher, he's the, not ICT, but technical director for the school. And he is also the math instructor for IGCSE class. And a lot of that work was clashing because he couldn't manage the process well. He had to teach and prepare students for IGCSE, and yet he had to attend to the school's technical needs on the portal and everything, attending to every class technical need, building timetable, relating with emails, all that. And I called him, Mr. X, your students they're lagging behind. What are you going to do? Do you know how to manage this process? And he was like, Mrs. Seg, honestly, I am worked up and tired. So I gave him a simple method, a simple technique, which I'm going to share with you right now that you can use. If your students are not able to teach you, if they are not able to teach you what you have taught them, then you have not taught. You have not taught, you have not impacted less. And this is simple. You enter into a class, you already have your planner. You already know the things you have set to target, right? The first thing you do, ensure that your students understand each step. Because if you don't have your work laid out sequentially, you will be causing a lot of work for yourself. Ensure that your students understand step one. This is what step one is, and this is what it takes. Give it back to me. Step two, this is what it is. This is what it takes. Give it to me. Step three, this is what it is. This is it. Give it to me. Now, in giving it to you, they are not going to give you your own verbatim process. You are going to saddle them with a responsibility to go out, to use their own terms, their own technicalities, their own originality to fit into the guide that you have given them. And by the time you do that, they come back to you with greater results. And I told Mr. X, I said, okay, let's try this in the next week. Guess what? He tried it in the next week. The next time I visited Mr. X in his class, he was relaxing on his table and drinking tea. So I told him, hey, what's happening? He said, Mrs. Seg, this process worked well for me. And hey, guess what? The process can work well for you too if you have gotten this. So I want to say a very big thank you to the listeners. And thank you. If you have any question, I'll be ready to take your questions now, or when the anchor wants me to take questions. Thank you so much. I hope you have learned something.
Thank you so much, Ms. Segs. My goodness, that was quite the session. There's something I love about Ms. Segilola. She's a scientist in education. She just knows it all, and she uses she knows it. I worked with her once, and I could tell that this woman knows.
I'm still learning.
Well, that was wonderful. My God, if you're really an educator, you really want to be an educator. You're not just a teacher because of hunger. You really are an educator. You would appreciate all that she said. So, Ms. X, I have one question for you. You're telling me that I have a disability like this.
It may not be pronounced, Debbie.
I know, but you said they said it. So me like this now, as I am, me as I am. Thank you.
It may not. You know, there are some people that, like I said, there are people who hear certain form of information, and the way they interpret the information might just be totally off. Like Mommy said, it may be as a result of maybe they're not used to the words, the vocabulary. And it may just be that they don't understand the disposition. When you are, I said it, that disposition is very key. The way you project your words, the way you say, there are times, even me, there are times I talk and people say, oh, she's being proud. But I'm not being proud. I'm just saying it the way it is. So people misinterpret your intentions at times when you are communicating with them. So it's just going to, that's a form of disability on my side. Because it's just that it's not too pronounced. I am conscious of it. I know when people say it, I quickly, look back. Oh, okay. I don't mean it in that way. This is what I mean. There are some people who will be patient enough to listen. There are others who won't be patient enough to listen. There are those who will want to, learn of you and be patient with you. There are others who will not want to do that. So that's what I mean.
Very profound, very profound. Now, this comes across it's not just for children. If you're a trainer, that's what this webinar is about. If you're a trainer, you would know that everything Ms. Aguilola has said is very important. As a speech coach myself, when I work with clients, and I mean grown-ups, some of them are leaders of industry, some of them are CEOs, you know, people at the top. And I'm telling them, this is how to say it, and they're producing something I'm not saying. And sometimes I'm wondering, is your ear, do you have something in it? Like what's happening? But now I think I understand better. And yes, of course, the way to go, if you come authentic, like you said, and simple, it's always okay. Thank you so much, Miss Thanks.
Always remember, Debbie, that people process information at different rates.
That's true.
Yes, the processing, it's different.
So we'll come back to you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And right now we'll jump to the last speaker. We are way behind schedule, way behind schedule. Mr. King, we're so sorry about your network earlier, but we're so glad that you stayed with us. We can't miss your session. We can. We need to know how to build our classrooms. And I know that you're the man for this job. So please take it away. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, my topic is cultivating a positive classroom climate through effective communication strategies. But first of all, let us look at certain terms that we have in this topic. The first one has to do with cultivating. What is the meaning of to cultivate? What does it mean to say to cultivate? Now, to cultivate in this context is to develop a way of doing something. So it could be to develop how to talk, behave, sing, read, or use something. The second one is effective, is a positive classroom climate. A positive classroom climate is a classroom situation or condition that is of good and pleasant quality. So if you say, you're saying that the classroom situation or the classroom condition is of good and pleasant quality. So we can also say that a positive classroom climate is a classroom situation that exhibits good quality. Now, we come to meaning of effective communication. What is effective communication? Effective communication means passing information across in a way that produces intended result. In other words, you make people understand what you want them to know or learn, or what you want them to understand. That is what is meant by effective communication. But now, let's get this right. I've mentioned the word, I made mention of effective communication, but the word effective is from effectiveness, or you can say that we get the noun for effective from effectiveness. But now, we should not confuse effectiveness with efficiency. Effectiveness is producing the desired result, is giving the actual result, receiving or actual result or wanted result. But efficiency is doing something well, doing something well. Now, let's look at it like this. Now, a teacher might be efficient, but might not be effective. Now, if a teacher is hardworking, he teaches the children the way they should be taught, and then at the end of the day, maybe he conducts a test for them, and let's say maybe out of 10, 2 of them have not done well. Well, you can say the teacher is efficient because he's hardworking, he does his work well, but the teacher is not effective. It's not effective because the teacher has not produced the desired result. The teacher has not given success, has not produced that will give him success in the test he has conducted. So there are two different things. Let's move on to communication. What is communication? Well, you can say communication is the ability or is the activity of giving people information, like what I'm doing now. It is a form of communication. I'm giving you some information. So that is communication. But we can also say that, well, communication is a process where people exchange or ideas with one another. Well, according to Olivia Hanifan, poor communication is the main reason why students lack motivation. So it means that good communication will produce the desired result if properly used. But poor communication will create problems. Now, let's look at strategy. What is a strategy? A strategy is a plan you use to achieve success in certain situations. Let me take that again. A strategy is a plan you use to achieve success in certain situations. So it is a general plan meant to achieve a particular goal. Is the meaning of strategy. Now let's go to the topic. It says cultivating a positive classroom climate through effective communication strategies. Now we want to look at the strategies that we can use to communicate effectively so that we will have a positive classroom climate, or will develop a positive classroom climate. But before then, let me quickly say this. Communication is not only about talking. It's not only about talking, but your body language communicates. Your writing communicates. All these are used one time or the other in classrooms to give information. So teaching has gone beyond using the traditional style, which is teacher-centered. What we have now is actually gaining prominence, and which is learner-centered style. We make sure that learners learn by themselves, although we will assist them. But it's not that everything will have to come from the teacher. The teacher will do the talking right from the beginning to the end. No. The teaching has gone beyond that. And more importantly, the mastery of the subject or the topic that the teacher is taking is important. Now, you can think of this. Why do you think some students don't like mathematics? Now, it's not because they're not intelligent. But if you look at it, there's a problem somewhere. And that problem could be lack of effective communication. And if there's lack of effective communication, now the teacher may know the subject, but may not actually know how to pass the information across to the students, or may not know how to impart the knowledge properly. So this is where communication, effective communication comes in. You need effective communication to produce the desired result you want. If you want your students to be successful, if you want your students to do well in the exams, you need to communicate effectively in your classroom. Very important. Now, let's look at the strategies we can use. I'm going to start with communication opportunities. Communication opportunities, not just one, but different communication opportunities that the children can use or the teachers can use so as to help these children to learn, so as to help these children to grasp what the teacher is teaching. Now, communicating with students helps building positive relationships and maintaining a good rapport with them. It helps the students to come out of their shell. For instance, some students might not like to stand in front of others and express themselves or share their thoughts with them. For some reasons, it could be because of the personality trait, it could be because of their beliefs, and it could be because of their previous learning experience. And it might be because of the relationship with their peers. Now, if you are teaching a topic and then somebody raises up his hand to ask a question, and after asking the question, others laugh at that child. Next time, when there's another lesson, the child might not want to talk because others have laughed at that child. Now, something happened this week. We have a career day that one of the students was saying something, but unfortunately, the script that she had with her dropped on the floor. And instead of picking it up to continue with the newscast, she left the stage and went to sit down at the back. Then the teacher that was moderating the occasion just asked the girl to go back and continue with her newscast. But instead of calling her by her real name, she called her the name of her sister. And the girl was angry. So the girl said, I am not so. Why did you call me that? So she was angry. The teacher didn't like that. So the case was actually reported to me. So I took the matter up and they wanted me to beat the child, but I didn't do that. I called her into my office. I asked her certain questions. And after that, one question I asked her was why she did that. Why did you do what you did? And she told me, I don't know. I said, think. She said, because others laughed at me. Because the woman said Emanuela instead of my real name. They laughed. So I was angry. Then I had certain things to her. Now look, the teacher just made that mistake, not because he wanted to call you your sister's name, but you shouldn't have got angry because others laughed at you. Well, she called you your sister's name. So that shouldn't make you get angry. So, well, she didn't say anything. I sent a message to the mother and I told the mother what the girl did. The mother was startled and she didn't like it. So she sent a message to me that, well, please do whatever you think is appropriate or whatever you think is a disciplinary measure that you people usually give children who behave that way. I was thinking about it that something must have necessitated that she couldn't just have, apart from all the students laughing at her, what about the prevailing situation there? And what about the teacher? So I asked her, teacher offended you before? Why, do you like that? I said, I like her, but I just told you why I did that. Now, you can see that what I did was part of communication. I just said it that, when it's not just about teaching, okay, that you communicate. When you have certain problems that you need to deal with, there's a way you should handle it. And there are certain things you should say, things that would not go contrary, things that will not create more problems for you. So everything has to do with effective communication. Well, thank God, doctor mentioned something the other time about, a girl, her girl anyway, saying, are you mad? Now, that are you mad? Well, that's the way Americans will say, are you mad at me? No? But because maybe the woman actually was not used to that kind of language. So she gave it another interpretation. And that's just it. So this is where effective communication comes in. You must know the right word to use and the right words to use. You must use those words properly, and you must know the time when you have to use those words. So for communication opportunities for children, we create multiple communication opportunities while varying the communication mode. Now, this will give them the chance to express themselves. We should engage them in team activities and group work. That's important. If we want them to learn how to communicate effectively and also to understand what we are teaching them, we need to allow them to be in groups and then learn in groups. Doing different activities, we should have team activities. That is where they express themselves. Maybe you have given them a task to take. Now, maybe 5 of them or 10 of them in a group, well, depending on the number of pupils you have in that class. Now, while they're doing while they're taking up the task, they talk, they exchange views, they exchange ideas. And from there, they are developing their communicative ability. Then you can also meet them individually. For instance, those students that are not doing well in your subject, you don't have to scold them harshly, but you find time that you call them. It could be during their recess, it could be during their lunch time or any other break. And then you ask them questions. Oh, why did you do this? Oh, you didn't do well here. What happened? Doesn't mean that you didn't understand that, you didn't get what I, explained or the way I said it, And from there, that child one-on-one with you will be able to open up what that child will not be able to say while other people are there. The child will say it while, she's or he's with you. And we should not overwork ourselves. For instance, you can just say, I will schedule just 2 days to see the weak ones among the students, instead of just taking the whole week to attend to their problems. No, you'll be tired, and then you might overwork yourself like that. So then don't limit your communication to verbal. Students can also be allowed to communicate in writing or drawing. For example, maybe a child doesn't want to ask you questions concerning his or her problems in your class. Now, give that child the opportunity to reach you, maybe via WhatsApp or sending a text message to you, okay, or maybe talking to you on phone, just like that, so that you create another avenue or another way for that child to communicate with you. Now, what we are talking about is effective communication. Effective communication. So one of the strategies is just to use communication opportunities, different communication opportunities. So if you know that a particular child will not want to answer or will not want to say anything in your classroom while you are teaching them, create another opportunity for that child to express herself or himself outside the classroom situation. Now, don't limit your they can use email, they can use your class blog or any other social media, as I've just mentioned, that use open questions to allow more freedom of expression. Use probing and extend a series of linked questions. Now, there was a problem. A particular child went to the toilet and was playing with one of the taps there. So he broke the tap and then ran out of the toilet to come to his classroom. So the cleaner went to the place and found that there was water on the floor in that toilet. So she came to inform me about it. So I had to go around to ask who did it. Now I asked all of them. Nobody admitted that he or she did it. Okay, I was just thinking about it. How do I know the person who did this? So an idea came to my mind. So I just went back to their classrooms. So I went to grade 1. When I got to the place, I just asked. I came here before and I asked you, but listen to me. If you don't tell me the truth and I find out eventually that one of you did it, I'll not take it lightly with that person. Still, they did not tell me they did it. So I went around. I was checking their shoes because I knew then that for the tap to break, there will be deluge of water coming from the broken tap, and then there's no way that person will not get wet. And suddenly I just saw one of the students that had his shoes completely wet. And I said, you did it. So he looked at my face. He said, I was just trying to turn on the tap and then it broke. I said, no, it was not because you were turning it up on. It was just because you are applying too much force. You wanted to know how the water was coming out of that place. So he just kept quiet. Then I asked him to come to my office. I asked him to explain how this thing happened, to me. And then he spoke the truth anyway. Now, I should have beaten him, but I didn't do that because eventually he told me the truth. He said he was sorry that he did it, that he was trying to press down and then pull the knob of the tap. And that was how it got broken. Now, I did not beat him because he told me the truth. Well, it's one of the rules in our school. Once a child speaks the truth, then you explain to that child why that child should not do that kind of thing again, and that you are pardoning that child because that child has spoken the truth. But if that child does that again, you'll punish the child. And that's just it. So, we can use probing, we can use different methods. We can use our body language, eye contact in our classroom, even outside the classroom, just to speak to, or communicate to these children. Different methods of communications. So that's why we call this one communication opportunities. Now let's move on to another one. This is active listening. Doctor mentioned this. Many times teachers do the talking and will not allow the students to express themselves. Like that, we might not be communicating effectively because they may have certain things bottled up in their minds. So if you don't allow them to talk, that thing remains there and will be troubling them. Now, it's just like somebody told a child that a fraction, it's when you have a particular number placed over another number, and did not explain further. So the child was just thinking, I don't understand this. So whenever I see a number placed over another number, that means that number is a fraction. Why? Why do we have to call it a fraction? Is it just because that number is placed over another number? So that was troubling, agitating the heart, the mind of that child. Now, the teacher got to know about this. And then I had to tell the teacher, you have to change that. That's not the way to explain it. You should have explained this thing in a better way. That you just tell them, show them the picture or maybe an object, a whole object. Now take part of it, take out a part of that object and tell them that part you have taken away is a fraction and the remaining part is also a fraction. It's just like you have a loaf of bread that you have divided or you have cut into 4 places. So if you take one part out of the 4 places, that one part you have taken, that is 1/4. So we use this mathematical expression to say 1/4. And that 1/4 means one part has been taken out of 4 parts. One part has been taken out of 4 parts. So it means one part out of 4 parts. That is 1/4. So it's no longer a whole because a part has been taken away from it. That is why it is a fraction. So a fraction is a part of a whole. Now you can see that. So the teacher must allow these children to talk. And even when you allow them to talk, you realize that these children may have something even better than your own that you have to learn from. I remember some years back when I was a teacher, I was teaching then. So I was using a method, but this child came to school. I gave them homework and brought and submitted, and I wanted to mark it. Then I found that this child used a very simple method to get the answer to one of the questions I gave them. I never knew that method before. So just how to find the height of a triangle if you have been given the area or the area and the base. So instead of just writing 1/2 times b times h is equal to area, and then you substitute for the letters there. Now this boy just wrote h is equal to 2 times a over b. So wow, this is cool. So simple. You understand? So you know that one is from the action. He communicated to me with the work he did. You understand? And I learned from that. We should allow these children to talk. We should allow them to express themselves. So listening involves paying attention to get the meaning of what is being said. So active listening is important in effective communication. We need that. Now, this helps us to understand students' intent and enables students to express their thoughts more clearly, and also, they try to show us how they think and what they think about. That's how we'll know. The facilitator who just spoke now says something about allowing these children to express themselves. And truly, let me tell you, when you allow these children to express themselves, I'm telling you, you know whether they have understood what you have taught them or not. And she said that if a teacher asks a student to teach what he has just taught, and that child has not taught well, it means that teacher has not taught at all. Because if that child doesn't understand what the teacher has taught, there's no way that child will be able to teach the class what the teacher has taught. And that's just it. Okay? So we should allow active listening. Active listening. So let them listen, and then teachers too should listen. Teachers should listen. And from there, you know how they think, what they think about. Now that's, the second one. So active listening helps the teacher to observe their students and get to know them better. To have time to listen to your students, you need to talk less. Please, teachers, take note of this. You talk less. This is the best way to improve listening in your classroom. Allow your students to participate in discussions. Let them discuss things. You can give them a topic, especially if it is, for instance, a topic in social studies about drug addiction, drug abuse. You can ask them to talk about this, and then you watch. That is how you know. Some of them might say, there was a day when my dad asked me to go and purchase maybe cigarettes for him. So I after purchasing this thing, and then I just took one of them secretly, and I tried it the way you always do it. You would know from there that this child has been trying smoking because you have given that opportunity. But if you had not allowed that to happen, you wouldn't have known. Now, let's quickly move to the third one, negotiation. There are certain children that are intractable. They are difficult to manage. And sometimes they behave in a way that, looks appalling to you as a teacher. But how do you handle them? This is where negotiation comes in. I know some people might not like it. I was discussing with a doctor at UI the way children should be handled, and vehemently told me, no, that is a Western way of dealing with these children. And that will not work here. Well, I just told them, it will work if we use it properly. Now, you don't know what some children are going through. There's a child that will always look moody. She will not look happy. And I've been wondering why. Why? Is it that this child would just appear moody, would not want to talk to anyone, would just keep quiet? But later, I got to know that there are certain problems they're battling with in their home. You understand that? So a child like that, you will not scold that child and will use certain abusive words, using vituperations, and some, derogatory words. No, we don't do that. So you use negotiation. Now, this negotiation has to do with fixing issues about the students. They may show resistance, yes, to improve on their behaviors. Yeah, when you notice that, no, don't castigate them vehemently or in a very hard way. They may show carelessness. Sometimes they lie to defend themselves. So what to do as a teacher? Number one, avoid shouting at them. Avoid threatening them. Then avoid losing your temper, but negotiate. That's it. Don't lose your temper. Don't shout at them. Don't threaten them. Start your conversation with positive language. Point out certain positive aspects of their lives. If you have noticed some children like that, call them and then talk to them, one-on-one, ask them questions. And then maybe you may say, oh, the way I look at you, you must be an intelligent student, but you don't want to work hard. Why? The other time when you answered a question during one of my lessons, I was surprised because you gave an intelligent answer. Oh, you must be an intelligent child. Okay, so you say that, all those things that will make that child happy. And let me tell you, from there, that child can tell you everything about her life or his life that child ordinarily will not tell anyone else.
Sorry,
And that's
Mr.
just
King,
it.
sorry to
Yep.
interrupt your time. We're
Okay,
out
okay.
of time. Yes, dear.
Okay. Let me go to the last one. Positive feedback. I think Doctor mentioned it. Positive feedback. Now, it should be motivating. When you do positive feedback, it's just like letting your students know how they're faring. Letting your students know that this is their position, this is, their the level of their academic ability. But you say it in such a way that it will not harm their emotions or hurt their emotions. So it should be motivating, it should be positive, and it should have, feed forward that, oh, if you can work on this, I'm telling you, when next we have a test based on this, you can have, 10 over 10. Yeah, that is feed forward. Now, you provide feedback to students in a class or on their written paper. And, if you do this, it has a great role in changing their learning behavior. And then students need to know how they are going and if they, how they're doing, and if if their performance is in line with what their teacher, expects. You let them know. So feedback is information about reactions to a person's performance of a task, which is used as a basis for improvement. Thank you. God bless.
Wow. Mr. King, we will have one special session for you because that was a whole lot and very practical with practical examples. Thank you so much. Let me see let me see the chat section. Please send in your Mr. King is a teacher. This Mr. King is not a presenter, he's a teacher. He came to teach us how to get and how to cultivate a positive environment in your classroom. And that was very, very organic. Thank you so much, Mr. King. Thank you. I don't
pleasure.
even know what question to ask. It's like if I can teach you what you said now. I can teach you what you said. Which means you, Mr. King, are an effective communicator. I really like the fact that you were able to differentiate effectiveness and efficiency for us, because many times we mistaken efficiency for being effective. Oh, I'm doing my work well, I come early, I do what I need to do, but is it producing the results is where there is a disparity. It's not going together. And so as much as we want to be efficient, our efficiency must translate into effectiveness. And this is how we are going to end. If you have any questions, please, you can ask in the chat. We won't take more than 2 questions, any questions at all. But we're going to end now because our time is fast spent. I did not even envision us staying this long, but when the experts are talking, you have to listen, because this is the only opportunity we get to just drag it for free. I know that someone like Ms. Segs, if you call Ms. Segs now, you will pay good money for that thing, all those things she said here. So I know that it's not, this is golden. And so we just have to stay and listen. Okay, so I want everyone to tell me 4 things you learned from all the speakers today, or 4 things that are going to be your action point as an educator from now on, or as a trainer. When I say educator, I don't mean just nursery, primary, secondary school. I train, generally, I'm a corporate trainer too, and these things also apply. So just tell us, anyone who wants to unmute themselves, 4 things you have learned today that's going to be your action point going forward, which means you're going to say, this is what I'm going to start to do. This is what I was doing before. This is what I want to do now. 4. Anybody, you can raise your hand if you want to speak so I can call you. Let's have some order. Or I will call you randomly. We can't waste our time here. Also, raise your hand and share with us 4. Don't leave the room. Don't run now. 4 things you've learned today. Let me see. Who am I going to call? Jumoke Monisola. Jumoke, unmute your microphone and tell us 4 things you're going to do that you've learned here today. 4 things you're going to do as an educator moving forward. Okay, so while I'm waiting for Jumoke, unmute your microphone. I know that you've been here, and then speak to us. I'm going to hear from, okay, yes, Jumoke is unmuted. Jumoke, let's go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For the information and everything you've given me today, I've learned and unlearned some things. So concerning what I've learned is the first thing I learned was to communicate very easily, in a simplest form to my audience, depending on the audience I have. To be able to interpret the message I'm getting across to them. The message I'm getting across to them, and they should be able to understand whatever I'm trying to say to them. So the second thing I learned is about when Miss Coach Tekilola was saying about facts. There are some things that you have to put in, like some learn through visual, static, and audio. So we have to put it into classroom or any other thing. Some learn more when they see things. That's when they will understand. So I've learned that too, and I'll make sure I put it in. God bless you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Jumoke. So those are your action points. Yes, I appreciate it. Well, in order not to waste time, because any other person has anything to say, you could just raise your hand and I'll call you. For me, my paper is full. My paper is full. I've been writing and writing. But one thing I'm definitely going to do is first, I'm going to help my learners define themselves better, because when you're working with people, most times they don't really even know what their limitations are. And that's why you are the educator, you're the trainer. it's your duty to find out what their limitations are, help them define themselves, put yourself in their shoes, get them to that point of, clarity and definition. So that's something I'm going to learn to do. I like to be very simple and authentic in my class, so I think that I'm scoring points as a communication coach for that. But another thing is feedback. Feedback. Sometimes we just talk and talk because we know so much, we just want to get it across to our learners, whoever is listening to us at that point. But we've learned that feedback, we must get feedback. You must make sure. And without feedback, communication is incomplete. You must get feedback. I've also learned that we'd have to engage strategies in speech, creativity, art, and craft. And this cuts across anything you're teaching. So for me, I teach speech, communication, talk, right? But I have to find a way of making it more creative, including art and craft, some role play, presentations, exploration, and build my lessons around that. And finally, I have learned that poor communication is the reason why your learners are not motivated. That one hits me. So it's your fault that your learners are not motivated. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Ojim. He said, I learned to be brief when communicating, use simple terms, ask questions beyond what and ask why, and to use appropriate channels. Emmanuel says he's guilty of not using appropriate channels. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Please, can we say a very big thank you to our speakers? They've taken out so much time. They are busy people. These are some of the busiest people I know in my life. And they've taken out this time to graciously pour out themselves for free. Hey, please tell them thank you. In the chat, if you want to unmute yourself and give them a very heavy round of applause, please go ahead. At this point, there's no rule. Just celebrate them for me. Please celebrate Dr. Eripita Oladisa, my mom. Celebrate Mr. Gilola, celebrate Mr. King, celebrate Mr. Ojim. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't thank you enough. This has been a lot and we are grateful. And I believe that we're doing better. Now, educators, this is my own final take home for you. Why do we raise learners who cannot stand in front of people and talk? At the university level, somebody cannot defend their own project. When they say go out and talk, all of a sudden people have lost their, they just lose it. And these are people, learners who went through primary education, secondary education, and even a tertiary education, they are shaking. You know the problem? It is the educators. It is the educators. When you see educators, some of you educators cannot stand in front of the parents in your school during a PTA meeting to talk. When they say you will give a report, wahala has occurred because all of a sudden your tummy is hot, your temperature is rising. Dear educators, how do you want to raise learners who are confident, who can communicate if you yourself cannot communicate? So our first action point, while we are talking about effective communication, it starts with us. Are we effective communicators? Do we know what it takes to be an effective communicator? You must learn it, you must understand it before you can practice it. Do whatever it takes, take a course if you have to take a course, read if you have to read, but most importantly, it is achieved through practice. Take the bull by the horn. If you know you're someone who doesn't like to talk in public, start to speak in public. Just stand up and talk. Nobody will bite you. That's how we get there. Communication, Mr. King said, is not verbal. The gestures, when your students see that you're someone who can stand and talk, they also would go in line if they like you as a good educator. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate each and every one of us for attending this webinar. Some of us were here before, some of us have had to go, but thank you for staying until the end. And at this point, I want to officially say that the effective communication training for educators and trainers has come to an end. The recording will be made available and the link will be shared via email, like you received the link for the meeting. So you can go over it. We're not selling it, though. We're not selling it. I'm a very good person. I'm giving everything for free. And thanks to my wonderful speakers and my senior friends. Okay, Ada Joy says, honestly, I would want to appreciate you all for taking out your time to impact life. You all rock. Yes, they do. And we've had applauses. Thank you, Mars. Thank you, sirs. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so yes, now you can unmute your microphone and say hi to someone. You know, you can just go to the chat and say hi to someone you don't know. That's how we're going to do our networking. This room will be open for the next, 5 more minutes. We're done. So if you want to leave, you can leave, but you can just turn on your camera, turn on your microphone, introduce yourself. Hello, this is me. This is what I do. So that when we see ourselves on the road, we'll be able to connect better. Thank you. So can we see Ada Joy, Adebolu Ronke, Emmanuel Ojim? You've been here and are you related to our speaker, Mr. Christian Ojim?
I wish I was.
Oh, what a coincidence. I've been thinking, this must be Mr. Ojim's brother or something. Okay, Ronke.
It's actually my first time seeing someone being the same
with
name.
the same name. You see, God does wonders, doesn't he? Good to have you. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah,
so Jumoke, Temi, is this Temi Tokpe or Temi 2P? I don't know. I'm pronouncing it with English. So unmute your microphone, say hi to the house. You can turn on your video. Let us see you. Let us see you. Ada Joy, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. So
I'm
are you a
Joy.
teacher?
Yeah, I'm a teacher.
Oh, what level?
Nursery 3.
Level 3, elementary.
Yes,
Interesting.
nursery 3.
Okay, so I hope that you've gotten enough to go and transform your classroom. Become a better educator. Thank you. So nice to see your beautiful face. Ronke.
Same here.
Let us see your face. Say hi.
Yes, Miss Debbie. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Debbie. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Like, I learned a lot. And the profile of the people you brought, man, I was like, God, this is excellent speaking. Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm presently outside. Let me show my face. Yes, everyone. This is Aderoke. I work with Miss Debbie, Sophia Diction.
Okay, yes. There you are. Okay, let's see. Jumoke, I saw Jumoke's video is turned on. Jumoke, unmute yourself so that we can see you. Unmute yourself so we can see you. Hi, Jumoke.
Good evening.
Good evening. It's you. It's the Jumoke I know. Hi, Miss Jumoke. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for sharing with us and thank you for staying till the end. Eyitayo was here from the beginning. I noticed you were one of the first people, if not the first person, that entered the room today, and you're still here. Let us see your face. Let us hear your voice. We've seen you in the chat, but let's. You are not shy. You can't be shy. Open your camera. Let us see in camera. Okay, so say hi. Let's see you. Let's know you. Mr. Moke, what level do you teach? What level do you teach? Primary?
Grade
Grade 1. Great. So you have more than enough resources to go back and make your class what it needs to be. Become that educator we want in our system. God bless you. Blessing our girl. Nice to see. Hey, Tayo, you want to scam us? Don't scam us. So you're seeing our faces, want to see you also, or want to hear your voice. Hi, Blessing. Can Blessing hear me? Hey, Tayo, let's hear your voice at least. Our time is
All right.
up. We're just catching
Evening.
fun.
Evening.
Good evening, Tayo. Good evening.
It's a privilege being here, like for real. Like I really enjoyed the session from start to the end.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I can't feel my face because power outage. So yeah.
It is well. It is
Yeah.
well. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying from the
You're welcome.
beginning till the very end. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. King, thank you so much. Thank you. We will see how did they say Nigeria? We see in camera. We see in the other side. Thank you. Miss Seg. Miss Seg.
You are wonderful, simply awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right back
Thank you
at
for
Thank
bringing this.
We still have a lot to do. The job is big, it's massive, and we will play our part. Thank you so much. Hi, Mommy. Has she gone? Oh, Mommy.
Yes, we will.
Mommy, thank you so much. I know if you go and pull my ear, but it's fine. Because everyone's calling you Mommy now on the call. No problem. Mission accomplished. They must know. Mommy, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Am I still muted?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Take care. Well done. It's
Thank
a
you.
wonderful seminar. Looking forward to the recording. Thank you for the privilege to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. It's all right.
Yeah.
So with that, this room comes to a close now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a wonderful night rest. Bye, everyone.
You too. You too. Bye. Bye, Ma.
Bye.